Welcome to BuzzLeap's Your Daily Explainer. Did you know that over 80,000 tech jobs literally vanished in just the first quarter of 2026? But get this, it wasn't just robots replacing workers, it was mostly to fund massive AI infrastructure. So, are you ready to discover how this hidden AI shift will actually expand your human potential, transform your career, and completely change how you see the future and BuzzLeaps forever? Let's get into it.
80,000. That is a massive number of global tech jobs cut in just the first 3 months of 2026. We're talking industry giants here, right? Oracle, Amazon, Meta, they're all leading this wave. Now, if you've been doom scrolling the headlines lately, it sounds terrifying. It sounds like, well, the machines have finally arrived to take the whole shebang. But hey, as we look closer at the data today, we're going to see that the reality of this disruption, it's completely counterintuitive to what those flashy headlines suggest.
So I want you to really think about this question as we go through today's explainer. Because what is currently being framed by everyone as a massive, devastating loss is actually laying the groundwork for an unprecedented expansion of what you can accomplish. Seriously, we are shifting from an era of just mindless execution to an era of total human agency. Section 1. The illusion of the layoffs. Okay, let's dive into this and start dismantling the fear around these massive layoff numbers, because we need to look at the actual mechanics inside these corporations. According to data from ETCO, the tech industry has shed over 1 million jobs globally since the pandemic correction kicked off in 2021. Oracle alone axed over 25,000 roles just this year. But here is the absolutely critical distinction. Nearly half of these 2026 layoffs are tied to AI restructuring, sure, but they are largely preemptive cost-cutting measures. These companies are basically freeing up billions of dollars to fund incredibly expensive AI infrastructure, massive data centers, raw computing power. It's not necessarily a direct one-to-one thing where AI software just immediately replaces a human worker at scale. Actually, scratch that. It's really more like a massive reallocation of capital. Section 2, factories versus the service sector.
So if the immediate threat isn't, a direct robot takeover of all our jobs, who is actually at risk as this tech matures? Well, the answer might surprise you. A fascinating study by Business Outreach looking at the Canadian labor market highlights this massive, unexpected shift. For decades, we all thought blue-collar factory workers would be the absolute first to be displaced by advanced tech, right? But wait, manufacturing was already heavily automated throughout the 20th century. The tasks left in factories today actually require complex physical dexterity that AI and physical robots still really struggle with. So the real vulnerability, it sits squarely in the white-collar and service sectors. We're talking administrative assistants, retail clerks, junior accountants. These roles are just packed with repetitive, rule-based tasks. Turns out, the robots don't really want to build cars. They want to do our paperwork, and they can execute it at a fraction of the cost.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the vulnerability is already playing out in the real economy. Check out this stark contrast from Morgan Stanley looking at the UK labor market. Among companies using AI, they reported cutting or simply not backfilling 23% of roles, while only creating 15% new AI-related positions. That is a pretty steep net job loss. So what's driving this? Well, rising labor costs are pushing smaller businesses to use AI and outsourcing to fulfill roles that local entry-level white-collar workers traditionally held. The friction is very real, guys, and it's hitting early career professionals the absolute hardest. Section 3. The era of AI agents. To really understand why these white-collar roles are suddenly so vulnerable, we have to look at how the technology is fundamentally evolving. We're no longer talking about simple chatbots where you just type a question and get a text response back. No way. According to the Geo Institute and NASSCOM, 2026 is officially the year of Agentic AI. Just look at this workflow. An AI agent in a procurement department can now autonomously receive a request, compare supplier quotes, raise the purchase order, and update the inventory. It does all of this completely independently without a single human stepping in between those steps. It's not just answering questions anymore, it is executing end-to-end workflows. And this right here is the monumental shift driving all that enterprise restructuring. Section 4. A global economic rebalance. But remember, economics is rarely just about pure destruction. While AI is automating workflows, it's also triggering this massive global reallocation of labor and capital. Get this staggering projection from Goldman Sachs. To sustain this massive AI boom, the United States alone is going to need 500,000 net new skilled infrastructure jobs by 2030. 500,000. We are talking about electricians, line workers, and massive construction crews just to build and power the data centers running these AI models. So while entry-level knowledge work is facing some serious friction, the demand for skilled physical trades is absolutely skyrocketing.
And because of this, we are seeing entirely different global strategies emerge to manage the transition. While the US and UK are trying to navigate this deep white-collar displacement alongside an infrastructure boom, Eurasia Group notes that China is taking a very distinct approach. Their focus is heavily on integrating AI directly into real-world industrial production and everyday business operations to try and stabilize their economy. As the global economy faces all these turbulent changes in employment structures, maintaining predictability and global supply chain stability has suddenly become the absolute most critical focus for world leaders right now.
Section 5. The new human agency. So the crucial point is this: if AI agents are taking over the repetitive, rule-based execution, both in the service sector and through industrial integration, what exactly is left for us? Like, what is the human role here? Well, the answer is incredibly empowering. The 2026 Microsoft Work Trend Index surveyed 20,000 workers, and they found that 58% of AI users are now producing work they simply could not have achieved just a year ago. Let that sink in. By handing off the grunt work to AI, workers aren't just saving a few hours a week, they are dramatically lifting the ceiling on their own individual potential.
Microsoft calls this the new agency equation, and it brilliantly illustrates the concept. As AI agents handle the routine execution of tasks, human agency actually expands. We're moving away from just being the doers of repetitive tasks, and we are stepping into the roles of directors, editors, and innovators. The real premium in the job market is shifting heavily toward human evaluation, creative problem solving, and providing direction. Essentially, you become the manager of a highly capable digital workforce.
Section 6. Mastering your AI future. All right, so we arrive at the most important part of this explainer. The landscape has fundamentally changed. The tools are autonomous now. The economic shifts are super real. And this is exactly how you must adapt right now to stay ahead in your career. AI is no longer this niche skill reserved just for software developers in a basement somewhere. The Federal Reserve and the Geo Institute both emphasize that AI literacy is now the mandatory professional baseline across almost all modern professions. Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or a marketer, you are absolutely expected to know how to use these tools. But more importantly, true AI literacy means having the critical thinking skills to interpret those AI outputs, evaluate them for accuracy, and crucially, understand their absolute limits. Actually, this quote from the Geo Institute perfectly captures the reality of 2026. They say, "The question for most professionals today is no longer whether they will use AI in their career. It is whether they understand it well enough to use it responsibly and well. The organizations that thrive going forward will be the ones that transform into learning systems. But the individuals who thrive, they'll be the ones who fully embrace AI fluency to unlock unprecedented value in their own day-to-day work." So here's the bottom line. The agentic AI era isn't here to replace human potential. It's here to unleash it. The execution barrier is totally gone. So as you look at your own career, your daily workflows, and your ambitions in this completely reshaped economy, what will your next buzz leaf be? Focus on building your agency, direct the technology, and claim your space in the future of work. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.